Good day, y'all. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Shitu Abakar and I'm the founder of Freshers Aid. Today, we are going to be learning how to measure trench excavation / how to read structural drawings, the strip in particular. The strip is also known as the wall footing. And for this class, whenever I say strip, I'm talking about trench. Whenever I say trench, I'm talking about strip. So let's get right into it. The trench is simply the portion of the building site which is dug to commence the construction of the foundation. Inside the trench, concrete will be poured, columns and column bases will be molded, reinforcements will be erected, blocks will be laid, and many more items of work. In order to derive the quantities of these items for estimates and preparation of bill of quantities, we must measure the trench. In the course of our measurement, we'll be dealing with the strip and the column bases. The strip, for the purpose of this class and this class only, is also known as the trench. And the strip is generally also known as wall footing. So therefore, the trench is also equal to the strip or the wall footing for the purpose of this class and this class only. So I said in the course of our measurement, we'll be dealing with the strip and the column bases. Well, the strip and the column bases are two separate items of work. So whenever we come across the column bases while we are trying to measure our strip or our trench or our wall footing, we will be deducting that column base from our dimension. To measure our trench excavation, we will be dividing our measurements into two categories. And each of those two categories are further subdivided into two categories. And that is external trench or gap and two, internal trench or gap or strip or wall footing. So the external and the internal trench are further subdivided into horizontal and vertical. Horizontal and vertical. So this right here is an illustration of what I just explained. So assuming this box is a building plan, these are the external strips. The enclosing strips are the external strips, while the strips within the enclosing strips are the internal strips. These lines are the portion of the building site that will be dug for concrete to be poured and blocks to be laid. All these walls, this physical wall that you can see, at the foundation level, the block is coming from the foundation, but you can't see it obviously because it's a finished building. So this is an internal wall or internal strip, and the enclosing walls are external. So similarly, these are external strips or external wall footings or external trench, while the one inside, the internal, those are the internal strips or wall footing or trench. And the horizontal are the ones that are horizontal. So the first category is external and internal. Then that category is further divided into horizontal and vertical. So this now is a vertical external strip, while this and this are external horizontal strips. This is an internal strip, vertical internal strip. This is an internal strip, horizontal internal strip. While the column bases that I was talking about that we'll also be dealing with in the course of our measurements, these are the column bases. Let me just, all the drawings that I'm going to be using for this measurement will be clearly displayed on the screen. The link to the drawing that I'll be using for this measurement will be dropped in the description down below. So make sure you download it so you can follow me properly. So these are the column bases. In the drawings, they are represented with dotted lines. These are the column bases. So whenever we are trying to get the measurements of, let's say, from here to here, we are going to deduct all the places that our column bases fall on. So let's go into our measurement proper. But before we do that, there's still one more thing we need to understand. The foundation layout, this is an illustration. This is the illustration 2. The foundation layout is labeled alphanumerically, with the vertical sides labeled numerically and the horizontal sides labeled alphabetically. These labels are used to locate and identify the dimensions. So for example, if you want to identify the dimension of this place, we'll simply say, where does it fall? This side, where does it fall? It falls on A1. So we say from A1 to what? A2 is 2025. So from A1 to A2 equals 2025. And don't forget that I said that in the course of our measurements, we'll be dealing with the strip and the column bases. But we want to learn how to measure the trench. And I said for the purpose of this class, whenever I say trench, I also mean strip. And for us to measure the trench accurately, we must deduct the column bases because we'll be measuring the column bases separately. It's a different item of work. So now this 2025, along that dimension, a column base falls here and another one falls here. So what we'll do is we'll look at the column base at the bottom in the foundation plan, in the foundation layout. They usually indicate what type of column base it is. And let's say this is base type 1 and this is also base type 1. So we'll go through our structural drawings to our part foundation details and check the dimension of base type 1. The structural engineer will usually will prepare a drawing for you, specifying where the dimensions of all the base types will be specified. The base types can be as much as 4. You could find base type 1, base type 2, base type 3. So let's say this base type, the dimension is 1200 by 1200. So what portion of our column base falls on our dimension from this A1 to A2? If you notice, only half, this half doesn't fall in our dimension and this half doesn't fall in our dimension. So what we will do, we'll say we will deduct half of base type 1 from this side and half of base type 1 from this side. So we'll come to our measurement and say deduct BT1. So, and how many BT1s can we see there? 2. Those 2, is it complete? It's not the, as it's not the complete one, we'll say 2 by half by 1200. That will still give us 1200. So we'll deduct this. So the length of A1, the strip on A1 to A2 is 825. So that's the principle that we're going to apply to measure our trench excavation. And that is also how to read the strip in the foundation layouts. If you want to extract the dimensions, that's how to read the foundation layouts, the structural drawing. of the foundation layout. So let's begin the measurement of trench excavation proper. This is the drawing I'll be using. From building works, from foundation to roof, I'm going to be using this drawing. So if you're following us, make sure you download it. So to begin our measurements, like I said, when we want to measure trench excavation, we'll divide it into external and internal. So let's start with the external gap. External gap is also strip, also wall footing. It's also trench. There's so many ways. There's so many ways. So in our external guts, we'll be starting with vertical strip. So vertical. So in order to measure it, like I said, we are going to be using the labels to pick out the dimension. You can take it one by one and say, okay, A1 to B1 is equals to 1009. Then you now say deduct base type 1, because it's base type 1 that's there, which is it's only half of 1200. You know, that's a 6. But this will be too time consuming. So what I'm going to do, instead of taking them in bits, I'm going to take the entire strip from up to down and deduct the places that are beyond our strip. So, you know, if you look at the labels, it goes from A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, L, M, N, and stops at O. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take A to O. Yes, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to look at the dimensions and I'll deduct all the column bases that fall within our length. So let's go right into that. So A1 to O1 is equals to 14,100. Then, if you look at it, you'll see that from O to N is not there isn't any strip there from O to N. So we are going to deduct that side, because if we don't deduct it, to be considered an over measurement. So we'll deduct O to N, and that will be the dimension for O to N is 825. We get 13,275. Then we will be sure to count all the column bases that fall on our strips, because we are going to measure the column bases separately. The trench for the column base, we are going to measure it separately. The concrete, it will be a separate measurement. So from A1 to B1, there is a column base there, but it's only half. The other half falls outside what we need to measure. So from E1 to G, on G1 there's another column base. So from A1 to B1 there's half column base. On G1 there's a whole column base. So that's what? 1.5. Please count with me. On H1 or J1, H and J1, there's a full column base. So that's 2.5. On M1, there's a full column base again, making 3.5. On N1, there is half column base, the other half falls outside of what we need to measure, making 4. And we'll now check the type of base types that they are. The one on A1 is base type 1. The one on G1 is base type 1. The one on H and J1, base type 1. The one on M1, base type 1. The one on N1, base type 1. So we are lucky they are all base type 1. So we can simply say 4 by 1200. According to the foundation details, the part foundation details, according to the specifications for the base types, for base type 1 that the structural engineer gave to us, he said the base type 1 is 1200 by 1200, as you can see clearly. So we are going to say 4 by 1200, which is going to give us 4800. So if you deduct 4,800 from 30,275, we'll be getting 8475. So for the left side of our vertical external strip, the total length of the strip, or the total length of the wall footing or the trench or the gap is 8,475. So we are going to get for the other side as well. So from A1 to O1, the length is 8,475. So now we are going to find for the other side. So it's just like we've gotten for this side, so it's time to get for this side. So following the same principle as this one, the other side is labeled A12 to O12. So we just look at the dimension of A12 to O12. It's still the same as this one. So we say A12 to O12, which is equals to 14,100. We will deduct O to N. We'll deduct O12 to N12 because that portion is not that there isn't any strip there. It will be an over measurement. So we'll deduct O to N. Still the same with this 825. We get 13,275. So we go to count the column bases that are there. On B12, there is one whole column base. On G12, there's another column base, a whole one. So that's 1, 2. That's 2. On H and J12, there's another whole column base. That's 3. 1, 2, 3. On N12, there is another column base. There is half, making 3.5. But if you look at B12, the column bases on B12 well, you can see that the column base is also overlapping with another column base. So we can't exactly call this 1. So we just call it 1.5. If you look at A12, you can see that there are 3 column bases along that area. So that's saying calling that column base on B12, just one column base will be an under measurement. I want to get an accurate measurement so that our contract sum will not come up short or won't come up excessive as well. We want to get the accurate, so we'll call it 1.5. So let's go again. On A12 to B12, there's 1.5 column base. According to the way I'm taking it, obviously everybody can't get the same exact figure, but the difference shouldn't be excessive. That's why in the contract bids, there are several contractors. And depending on the contract sum and the contract duration, that's the criteria in which contracts are awarded. So some people's contract sum may be big and the contract duration short. That's the time it will take to completely execute the project will be quite short, or a big contract duration and small contract sum, So me, I like things to be accurate. So let's say on A12 to B12 is 1.5 column base. On G12, there's a complete column base there. That's 2.5. On H and J12, there's a complete column base again. That's 3.5. On N12, there's only half column base. The other half, has exceeded what we need to measure. So that makes 4. It's still the same thing as this one. So we say deduct column basis, deduct column basis. And if you check the base types, they are all BT1s. And the dimension for BT1 is 1200 by 1200. That makes 4 by 1200, giving us still 4800. We deduct our column base, we still get the same figure. You know, the building is almost square. It's even square. The shape of the building is square, other than some irregular shapes on M1 to N1. You know, there is a kind of L or R shape there. So, but we are looking for we are finding a perimeter now. This is a perimeter. So, assuming it was an area, that's when it should be. Assuming we are trying to get area, that's when we'll be concerned about the irregularities. So, for the vertical side, from A1 to O1, the dimension is 8,475. From A12 to O12, the dimension is 8,475. So we will now add these two up to get our total vertical strip. The total. So we'll say here, we'll leave it total external vertical equals to A1 to O1 to 8,475, A12 to O12 equals to 8,475. So we sum it up, and that will give us 16,950. So our total vertical gap is 16,950. So let's go to the horizontal gap. Instead of taking it in bits and say A1 to A2, I'm just going to take the entire thing. So I'll say, if you check the label, like I already showed you how to check the labeling system. If the one up, I'm starting with the horizontal up. So let me just put up. Okay. So just for that, you don't need to put this in your measurements for exams. And in practical cases, very rarely will the construction team or your client request to see your measurement. It's your bill of quantity that they will be dealing with most times, usually. A1 to A15. That will give us 17,912. So if we leave it like this, it will be an overmeasurement. So we'll deduct all the excesses because of out of our laziness. You know, we don't want to take A1 to A2, A2 to A3. We just took A1 to A15. So that's because they've already dimensioned it there for, so we can just pick the dimensions. So all we just need to do now is to deduct the excesses. So the first excess is A15. If you look at A15 to A14, there isn't any strip there. So A14, the dimension is 1,617. From A14 to A13, the dimension is 145. From A13 to A12 is 800. So we deduct all this, get 15,350. So we'll go on to count all the column bases that is there. I already checked it because of time. They are all base type 1. Base type 1 is 1,200 by 1,200. So say deduct, and I counted it as well, but you can count it yourself so that you'll be sure. And for practice sake, I counted 5.5 column bases times 1,200. That will give us 600. You deduct that, we get 8,750. So that's for the up. Let's say this is the plan. We've gotten the length of strip from here to there up. So we need to do for the bottom now. So for the bottom, you don't need to put bottom in your measurement, but I'm just doing it for the sake of clarity and understanding. So from O1 to O15 is equals to 17,000. Like I said, the building is a square. Or will I say the building is almost like a square, but it's kind of like, it's more like a rectangle. The building is a rectangular shape. So obviously the length of the two widths are going to be equal, and the length of the two breadths are going to be equal. No? So, but it's not a rectangular shape, it's an irregular shape. But if you deduct the irregularities, you're going to get a rectangle. I don't know if you don't follow me, just let's mind what we're here for. So we are going to deduct the excesses. Again, for the bottom side, deduct O15 to O14, deduct O14 to O13, and deduct O13 to O12. So this will give us 1,617, 145, and 800. So that's 15,350. See, still the same thing as this one. So we'll deduct the column bases. I already counted it. So you can count the column base. Like I said, download the drawing. The link to download this drawing is in the description below. You can download it and print it. So you'll be able to use it to practice. When I counted it, I got 4. And I checked the base types, so they are all base type ones, and I got 4 numbers. So that's deduct BT1. So that's 4. So that's where the difference occurs. Here I got 5.5 numbers. Here I got 4 numbers. 4 times 1,200. Why 1,200? Because that's the dimension of base type 1. So that will give us 4,800. So you subtract 4,800 from 13,350. That will give us 10,550. So to get the total external horizontal gaps, we'll come here again. Total external horizontal. Give us from A1 to A12. From A1 to A12, we got 8,750. And from O1 to O12, we got 10,550. That will give us 19,300. So our total horizontal gaps, total external horizontal is 19,300. After this, we'll now further find the total external gap. Since our total vertical we got to be 16,950, our total horizontal we got to be 19,300. We will now find total external gaps. External, which will be total horizontal, total vertical. And one thing about measurements, the longest side is your length. No matter where it falls, the longest side is your length. So in this case, since our vertical we got 16,950 and our horizontal we got 19,300, our length is what? 19,000. Our length is the horizontal side, 19,300, and the length always comes first. So I almost made a mistake here. So the total horizontal first, total horizontal. Give us 19,300, and total vertical will give us what? We got 19,950. So we sum it up and we'll get 36,250. So our total external gap is what? 36,250. Now let's go into the internal gaps. But unlike the external gaps, in the internal gaps, the base, I told you that whenever we come across a base type or a column base along the course of our measurement or the extraction of our strips dimension or dimension of our strip, we are going to deduct the column bases. So unlike the external gaps, in the internal strips or the internal wall footing or the internal trench, we are going to be coming across different type of column bases. So I've written the dimension of all the column bases here. Base type 1, just like I will be measuring it, is 1,200 by 1,200. Base type 2 is 1,300 by 1,300. Base type 3 is 1,005 by 1,005. Base type 4 is 1,700 by 1,200. So let's get straight into the measurements. So, like I said, using the labeling system, you locate the labels. I'm just going to put the labels from G1 internal gaps to G12 is giving us 1,500, 15,350. So we'll deduct the over measurements that are there. So taking from G1 to G12, actually, if you look at the plan, you can see that that's actually two different wall footing or two different strips. But I took it as one unit to save time. So that space that is between them, we are going to deduct it. And the space is what? B4 to B5. So we deduct B4 to B5, which is giving us 2,625. Deduct it. 5. So we deduct BT. There are 3.5 base type ones there. 3.5 by 1, 2. Which will give us 4,200. We deduct 4,200 from this dimension and we'll get 5,525. There's also BT2 along that same length. There is a BT2 there. So we deduct it. Deduct. We cannot combine BT1 and BT2 because they have different dimensions. BT2. You see, this is a little bit more complex, but it's generally all a matter of understanding. Difficulty is not an element. It's either you understand or you don't understand. So deduct 1300, which is the dimension of BT2, and we get 7,225. So the next one is H1 to H12. That's giving us 15,350. Deduct BT1. There's also base type 3 along this distance. So indicated deduct BT3. Just one BT3. It's 1.5. BT3 is what? 1.5. Look at it here. 1.5 by 1.5. Deduct that. And we'll also deduct BT2. Deduct BT2. There's also a base type 2 along that distance. And base type 2 is what? 1,300. So that will give us 10,150. So this will be all for the horizontal guts. And of course, we'll sum our dimensions together to get the total horizontal, to get the total internal horizontal gut. So we'll come here. Okay, let me see. Put it here. Total H. H is for horizontal, and because of the space. Total H. And internal gut. So that will be our first dimension, G1 to G12. You got 7,225. Then from H1 to H12, our dimension is 10,150. So we add this together. Add. And that will give us 17,375. So this our dimension, this 17,375, we are going to keep it somewhere because we are going to be needing it very soon. So let me box this up. So let's say we just put this total H cat is equals to what? Yeah, let me just create space. 17,375. So let's go to our internal vertical gaps. So from A1 to G2 give us we'll sum up all the dimensions. By the time you sum up all the dimensions from A1 to G2, you get 5,201. So you deduct, there's a base type 1 there. You deduct base type 1, the complete one has 1,200. $4,001. So the next vertical strip we'll be taking is H6 to N6. That'll give us 2,426. You know, we add up the dimensions. 5,226. So there's a base type 1 there. Deduct the base type 1, deduct BT1. Only half falls along our strip. So that's 600. There's also a base type 2. Deduct BT2. Step 1, step 2. Similarly, only half falls on our dimension. So half by 1,300 to give us 650. And we'll get 3,976. So our next vertical internal strip is H2 to M2, which will give us 2,000. You add all the dimensions along that strip, and you should get 2,426. Or probably I made an error, or if you get something different, I probably made an error. If you get something different, I probably made an error, or you probably made an error. But the concept is to sum up all the dimensions along that strip and deduct BT1 half by, I think there's only half BT1 along that strip. Should be 600. So our next dimension is A4 to N4. And that will give us 13. Deduct as a base type. There are base types there. Base type 1, deduct it. There are 2 base type 1s along that strip. That'll give us 2,400. There is also a base type 2. Deduct base type 2, 1,300. And there is a base type 3 there as well. Deduct BT3. Give 1,500. So we'll get 8,075. Our next dimension is A5, just A5 to H5. If we sum up all the dimensions there, you'll get 8,050. There is one base type 1 there. There is base type 1 along that distance, and it's 2.5 numbers, which you can be illustrated or depicted as 2.5 times the dimension of base type 1, 1, 2. We get 3,000. So you deduct 3,000 from 8,050 and you get 50, we go share a man, no like Ojuru, no get as we go do, I go know your koro, I get your polo, Even when I shy you, I'm a soldier, I'm dá mi dúró, do the I will do this. Okay, so then A7 to G7. If you sum up all the dimension along A7 to G7, you should get 5,201. You deduct base type 1. There's only one base type 1 there, 1,200, a whole base type 1, and you get 4,001. Then to the last but not the least, H6 to N6 now should give us, you sum up all the dimension along that strip, you get 5,226. We'll deduct the base types now. There is half a base type along the distance of our strip, so we'll deduct that. There's also a base type 2 there. There's half a base type 2 by, sorry, this is supposed to be 1,200 to give 600, 1,300 to give 650. So we get 3,976. So now we are going to find our total internal vertical gaps, and that will be by summing up all the dimensions together. There is no more space, so I'll just create space, probably like this. I'll create space like this. So the first dimension, H1, how am I going to create space? So now, we are going to get the our total internal vertical gap, and that will be by summing up all the dimensions for our internal gap. So total V int gas. So the first one, A2 to G2, we got 4,001. Second, H2 to M2, H2 to M2 equals 8,226. Sorry, I say 1,826. The third, we got as A4 to N4 is equals to 8,075 for A5 to H5 equals 50-50, we go share and no like coach. And the fifth one, A7 to G7 equals 4,001. And the last but not the least, 6, H6 to N6 gives us 3,976. So we sum this all up and we'll get 18,854. So this is our total internal vertical. So to get our total internal gap, total internal gap. I'm going to sum up the horizontal internal H, which we kept here. Total internal H gap, we got it at 17,000. We got it at 17,000. Three, 7, 5. Our internal vertical, we got that as 18,854. Sum it up, and we get 36,229. So we will now find our total gap. Now, total trench. This is how to get the trench excavation. Finally, to get our trench excavation, finally, we'll say total building trench. We now say total external strip. We got external strip, the total to be 36,250 right here. 36,250 was our total external. You can check to confirm. And our total internal, of course, that is 32,000. Sorry, that is 36,229. So we sum that up and it will give us 72,479. So that is our trench excavation. So after we are done with our measurements, the last but not the least thing we'll do is to describe our work and reference our work. So after you measure, you must describe your measurements and reference it according to the BESMM4 revised, which is the latest edition of the BESMM. So let me draw a mock taking off sheet on the board. Now, for educational purposes or academic purposes, what I mean by that is if you're taking off for your lecturer or you're writing an exam, it's always best to draw a section of your trench before you describe. So I'll go ahead and draw a section of the trench for you. So this is a section of the trench excavation. This is the hardcore. This illustrates or stands for the hardcore. This is the laterite. We'll get to all those items of work. They are items of work as well. This is the natural ground level. That's from this place, they dug down. So this from here to here is the trench. Here is the extension or the foundation shootout. So this is the hardcore. We'll get to the measurement of the hardcore. This is the laterite. We'll get to the measurement of the laterite. This is the block work. These two lines, they signify the block work, and this is the blending. So we are going to go ahead and describe our work. Description of your measurement isn't something that is complex. It's just for you to follow the procedure. And you can even reuse your description in different measurement works or different taking offs. All you just have to do is change the details, which is like the figures, not the details. All you have to do is change the numbers. So, and most times the numbers are even the same. So we are going to go ahead to our description and say excavate trench width NE. This NE stands for width not exceeding 2 meter. 2 meter. Starting from stripped level max depth not exceeding 2 meter. Not exceeding 2 meter. This is 2 meter, not 20. This is 2 meter. This is 2.0 meter deep. Then we reference it. If you do not know how to reference your measurement works, I've made a video of that, so you can go and check that out. How to use the BSMM 4 revised to reference your building work. We reference is 1.5, 0.6, 0.2, 0.1. And after we've referenced, we are not still done. We have to book our work. So we got our trench excavation, the extent of our trench excavation to be 72,479. So we are going to go ahead and book it. Yeah, 72,000. We are going to come, that's 72,400 that's 72,479 millimeter. So whenever we are going to book, we are going to convert it to meter, and 1,000 millimeter makes 1 meter. So to convert from millimeter to meter, we simply divide whatever figure we have by 1,000. So if you divide 72,479 by 1,000, you get 72.48. So that's the extent of our trench. So assuming this is the trench, it goes like this. This is a section of the block work. These are the floors. This is like natural ground level. So since we know that the distance is 72.48, that's the distance. So to book it, we are going to be booking it in cubic meter or meter cube. We'll now say, okay, what is the depth? The depth will be 1,200. That's the depth of our trench, 1,200. So what about the width? Since our trench, I said the depth is 72.48. The distance, the length is 72.48. The depth is 1,200. And the next is the width, which is also 1,200. So we say 1.2. So you multiply these three, whatever you get, that is the value for the trench excavation. So with that, we've come to the conclusion of how to measure trench excavation and how to read the strip in structural drawings. That will be all for today. Bye for now. And please, if and only if you found this video helpful or problem solving, please, I want you to give it a thumbs up and join the Freshers Aid family by subscribing. And do not forget to turn on your post notifications so you can be the first to know whenever I drop more tutorial videos that can help you to become a better quantity surveying student and a better quantity surveyor and even a better member of the construction team. Bye for now.